Very good. Well, welcome everybody to Power Lunch today. I'm freshly returned from the wilds of Alaska. If anybody has an opportunity to go to Alaska, I would highly encourage it. It's a place like no other. I took a lot of pictures, which are meaningless because there's no way to actually describe what you see when you're there. So, said I'm glad to be back. Good to see everybody, and nice to have today's partner on with us. We have Rick Grundy from Avtech or RoomAlert. Is it RoomAlert?
Yeah, Avtech
The name?
Software is
Yep,
the company, and
yep,
our primary product is
yep.
RoomAlert.
Which I was kind of actually confused with at first because I was used to the Avtech moniker, and I didn't realize that it had separated out, or it was being referred to as its product name more prevalently now. Um, so that's kind of cool. But Rick, what is your role there? Who are you within Avtech?
Well, thanks for allowing me to join today and talk a little bit about our products. I am the president and CEO of Avtech as of just a few months ago. So,
Nice.
but I've been with the company for a little over 20 years now. I've come up through the engineering side of the business,
Oh,
having gone
awesome.
through a number of engineering roles and director of engineering, VP of engineering, and then president and COO, overseeing operations, and now overseeing everything as CEO.
Nice.
So
It's awesome to see an organization that eats its own dog food. That's cool. Very good.
that's right.
Congratulations
I've
on
eaten a
your
lot of
yeah, and I've
it.
eaten a lot of dog
I
food. No,
made it
good.
too, so I have
Yeah,
to,
yeah,
right?
right. Exactly. No, that's awesome. It's good. And it's good to have someone with that type of experience and history, to kind of talk to us and explain kind of the nitty-gritty stuff. So, um, like I said, we probably had, man, it might be 2 years now. It might have been 2 years ago we had the products on. We talked about it a little bit, and there was interest with it. And frankly, I've used them before in past lives, in IT leadership roles, and it's a very interesting product set for me. I don't want to steal any thunder, so if you want to kind of give a high level overview of kind of the RoomAlert product and those things, and then we can kind of get into question and answers and those different pieces. So go ahead and talk a little bit about the product, and we can go from
That,
there.
that sounds great. And I've got a couple of slides I'm just going to try to
Okay.
share here, just as a little bit of a visual aid as we go through. So if you could just confirm that you can see my screen now.
Not yet. Yep, there it is.
Perfect. Very good. So, like I said, I'm Rick Grundy, President and CEO of Avtech. Our RoomAlert products are used worldwide, and we'll talk about that today. You can see our logo, our Avtech logo, in a couple of different spots in the world here today. I'm talking to you today from Warren, Rhode Island, where our headquarters is. We've got a distribution facility in Shannon, Ireland. We've also got a sales office in Dubai, which you see down by this logo, and then we've also got our manufacturing facility in Western Pennsylvania. So we're distributed, but still primarily domestic, and serving a global audience from our headquarters here in Warren, Rhode Island. So our lives, all of us, are really impacted more and more each day by environment issues. 30% of downtime for IT and data center facilities comes from environment issues. Extreme weather keeps coming up seemingly every day. It's causing flooding rain, unexpected power outages, more frequent heat waves, especially this past summer and the summer before. OSHA has actually recently just launched a national emphasis program based around heat-related safety for U.S. employers for both indoor and outdoor employment. They need to provide additional safety monitoring and mitigation steps to prevent heat-related illness in their employees. And you've probably seen many organizations, especially large organizations, have launched sustainability programs, but they really have no way to measure whether or not those sustainability programs are successful. And they need a tool like RoomAlert in order to do that measurement. So we said just a few minutes ago as we were doing introductions, Avtech was founded in 1988. We're now celebrating our 35th year this year in 2023. And our RoomAlert products monitor and protect organizations against environment issues like I've just described. We protect people, property, and productivity. With our headquarters in Warren, Rhode Island, like I mentioned, our manufacturing facility in Western Pennsylvania, distribution in Ireland, sales in Dubai. We truly are a global company serving customers across 187 countries, but also a company that is small enough and approachable enough to be able to really respond in a dynamic way to the needs of our customers. These customers include over 90% of the Fortune 1000, every branch of the US military, the Pentagon, the White House, NASA, SpaceX, Microsoft, Google, Apple, Amazon, Twitter, and then thousands of SMBs globally. We like to say that you really can't go 5 or 10 minutes in your life without bumping into a customer of ours, whether it's Procter and Gamble or Amazon or Trader Joe's or
That was kind of one of the crazy things that I remember from the last time that we were together, was the breadth, kind of the scope of where your products are. It's like I didn't realize how all over the place you guys are. I mean, it really is in every nook and cranny of the businesses that we're used to touching every day.
It really is. And we're really behind the scenes protecting a lot of the infrastructure that the rest of the world depends on. But often we go unseen. There's a reason, too, that we have so much depth within small and mid-sized businesses, the SMBs, and then also the enterprise customers as well. We're an SMB ourselves. We're a privately held company, 35 years old, but we are very much like the thousands of customers that we serve that are SMBs in terms of knowing what those needs are. So really our approach with our RoomAlert products has always been to try to engineer in enterprise level features in terms of the security and the capabilities, but make them accessible for the SMB level of the market, both in terms of price, availability, and ease of use, most importantly. Our products are very non-technical in terms of the installation. It's really designed to be installed certainly by an IT manager or by an MSP or an IT group, but could also equally be installed by somebody who's a warehouse manager or somebody who is concerned about flooding in a crawl space and they've got limited technical knowledge, but they can plug in a few cables and configure something on their phone. So it's really that approach of trying to look at our products through our own lens of what we need and create those enterprise level capabilities, but bringing them down to the market to appeal to the SMBs.
Yeah. When you talk about that, it's interesting to me, the level of flexibility. I had actually um last time we did the show, I was talking about it with a person who, I'm from northern Wisconsin, a person who was up there, and they had actually thought of using this product in a business they were starting, monitoring temperatures in cabins. They were doing a service where they would monitor lake cabins and try to keep people from having frozen pipes.
Absolutely.
And I was like, wow, when you think about, one end of things being the advanced automated warehouses and storage facilities and cold storage places, and then the other end being a retired dude in northern Wisconsin who wants to monitor cabins. I was like, wow, it really speaks to the athleticism of the product.
Well, yeah, it also, I think, speaks to the type of conditions that we're monitoring. I mean, every single person knows what the impacts of temperature is. Every single person has been impacted by a power loss at some point. You're 10 times more likely to have a flooding or water issue in a business or just in your lifetime than you are a fire or smoke issue. We've all run into those things. They're really tangible impacts. And as a result, I think for people, it's easy to then envision how generally monitoring those conditions can be applied to a wide variety of applications. So you mentioned vacation homes. We have a surprising number of vacation homes being monitored for frozen pipes, but also down in Florida, the opposite issue, where if the air conditioning stops working in a vacation home, within a couple of weeks, you'll have mold and mildew and require complete remediation of the property. We've got similar customers in Denmark. It's a similar vacation market where they're occupying those vacation homes for only part of the year, and then using RoomAlert to monitor the vacant property after that.
Or in today's world, if you're doing like an Airbnb and that type of a thing, and you've made an investment in a property and you want to know what's going on with, like you said, in Florida, if you need to make sure you don't have mold remediation, and I'm going to use the word cheap insurance, but and then not to degrade the product, but it's inexpensive insurance,
It's
because you
in
can
some
get a
cases
great.
cheaper than your deductible.
Well, right, exactly. So, I mean, yeah, and it's interesting to me once people understand and learn about this product, the creative ways with which they use it.
Right. And we've actually seen quite a surge over the last 3 years as we've come through the COVID period. And the market has readjusted, especially in commercial real estate. Some offices were vacant for quite some time, and the owners of those buildings or businesses were using RoomAlert to keep an eye on that vacant property while their team was remote. But even now, a lot of businesses have gone into either a hybrid mode, or they just won't have the 24/7 presence that they may have had previously. And they're rounding out that 24-hour monitoring by having RoomAlert in place so that they can have somebody there 8 hours a day, and they know that they'll get notified reliably
Yep.
3 shifts during the day monitoring of a facility.
Yep. Yep. Very good. Well, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
No, not at all.
keep going.
Yeah, so this is just reinforcing some of the same things that I've mentioned before. We're used across some of the most secure industries in the world, including the military, the government, banking, and finance. And what really sets RoomAlert apart is the fact that we are continued to be committed to manufacturing in the USA. We're not just designing and engineering our products here; we're actually doing all of the manufacturing here in the US as well. But we're also incorporating some of the most sophisticated security protocols that are out there on the market. And that's allowing us to serve that military and government market with made in USA products with the highest level of security. But those same areas of focus also apply to a wide percentage of the market in terms of being core values that that really resonate with those customers. But our global reach also allows us to serve customers that can deploy with confidence, whether they're a single office in Nebraska or if they're a large multinational spread across multiple countries. We've got the personal approach to service customers of any size, but the global reach to be able to distribute those products, sell those products, and support those products no matter where somebody may be.
So you'll find your products then taking it in areas that have standards that apply. So like GDPA or HIPAA or financial services realms, those types of places. So the products are able to be deployed in those regulated environments and still allow those businesses to meet their security standards, if you will.
That's exactly right. So we are GDPR compliant because we do operate in Europe. GDPR remains one of the more stringent privacy policies out there, and maintaining our GDPR compliance also allows us through that to essentially comply with most of the really all of the individual 50 state privacy policies that the US has found itself unfortunately in, rather than a federal level
I
privacy
think I said
policy.
GDPA, and I commend you for translating that into what the actual standard was.
Yeah, yeah.
Very good. You obviously are a good translator.
So yeah, GDPR on the privacy side,
Yeah.
we've invested in that since back in 2017, and then we've made a significant push over the last several years with our cybersecurity posture as well, especially for those government and military customers, but also banking and finance. And most businesses at this point have come along to also requiring that as a base standard. So
Well,
our approach is NIST 800-171. We're also extending that to CMMC, which is really what the military looks for. And most of the other cybersecurity policies are ultimately subsets of those. So if we're meeting a CMMC level of cybersecurity, both as an organization and within our products, then that'll be compatible with almost every industry out there.
well, and I think that's an important point, and that shouldn't escape us, is the value of in this world of Internet of Things, in this world of machines talking to machines, that we're able to deploy a solution like this without compromising our security controls.
That's
You know,
exactly right. I mean, you may
yeah.
recall, especially where you're calling in from Target. What was it, back in 2011 or 12? Their
Mhm.
breach, their credit card breach, came through an HVAC contractor.
Yep.
So the products that you choose are important, and it's important that the manufacturers of those products also maintain the highest level of security standards possible, so that you're not introducing a risk into your environment.
Mhm. Very good. All right. Sorry to interrupt again.
Oh, no, anytime. Any questions you have, I'm happy. This is just reinforcing some of the other ways that we stand apart. We've invested in a number of patents in our products, notably our digital active power sensor, which is about the size of a USB stick, and it straps to the outside of a power cord and can detect power flowing through that cord. And it also has an onboard temperature sensor. So, as an IT service provider, an MSP, you can envision the value of that on the power cord on the back of a server. You're getting that power is currently being drawn by that server. So not just that power is on to the outlet, but that the computer is on and drawing electricity. But it's also telling you the temperature at that point, which is often the exhaust of the server. So you're getting a hot aisle temperature. And you don't need to unplug the server. You don't need to modify the cable. You simply strap it to the outside of a power cord. It's the only product out there that can do that. It's a unique technology that we've patented, and it's
Wow.
unique to
That,
Roomalert.
yeah, that's very interesting. So then does that partner with one of the other room units and read back to it, or how does that?
It does, yeah. It's a sensor that connects to any of our current Roomalert models. The hardware monitors themselves can talk to that sensor and can display real-time active power status and temperature, and you can log and graph that over time as well.
Wow.
Yeah, one of the
That's
large
very
cable
cool.
operators was the one that originally requested something like that because they had thousands of racks that were serving up streaming content, and they wanted to monitor the power to those servers, but they couldn't take them down because they were actively serving streaming content. And all other technology at the time, current loops and so on, you would need to modify the cord or isolate one of the primary conductors on that electrical wire. And we were able to use some creative engineering to make it so you just strap it to the outside of a cable, and you can immediately detect that the power is flowing. It's detecting current moving through the through the
It
cable.
tells you that it's flowing. It doesn't tell you how much though, right? It just,
Correct. It's telling
okay.
you that it's on over a certain
Okay.
threshold. We do have the interesting ability to show differences in that. We just haven't enabled it in our software yet because we're working to fine
Wow.
tune that. But that's
And
the vision ultimately, is you'd be able to see that, here's
that's
your
crazy.
baseline, and you
Yeah.
can increase or decrease above your baseline.
That's super interesting. So with that, is that a one-to-many type of a relationship? So in other words, I could have many of those sensors tying back to a base unit, for lack of a better way to describe it.
Absolutely. And I think it's on my next slide. I've got a picture of some of the
Okay,
different
yeah,
models
it's
that we have.
I
Um,
got all excited there.
no, it's
Ugh.
great. So all of our Roomler hardware monitors, they all basically do the same thing. They run the same firmware. They have the same capabilities. It's just the capacity that's different. And the capacity is the number of sensors that you can connect to a single hardware monitor. So I'll illustrate that here in a second.
Okay.
But the digital active power, that's just one of our technologies. Another is what we call our Monitor 360 technology. That allows you to create in our Roomler account platform, which is all hosted online. You can create virtual sensors. So here, application, calculate the difference between two sensors. So for example, you could have a temperature sensor on the intake of your HVAC, and you could have a temperature sensor on the exhaust. And if your HVAC is performing correctly, you should get a certain amount of difference from the intake to the exhaust. Maybe it's a 12-degree difference when it's operating normally. With Monitor 360, you can create a virtual sensor that will always report the difference of those two sensors, and then you can plot that over time. You can create alerts based on that. So let's say it drops under 10 degrees. That may indicate that you need a filter change, or that your coolant needs to be recharged, or your HVAC needs to be serviced. It's not off. You haven't had a failure yet, but it's giving you insight into something you've never had before from a preventative maintenance standpoint. And so Monitor 360 does things like that. The other
Wow.
really interesting application for it is for protecting against condensation. So we talked about that Florida application. With Monitor 360, you can calculate the difference between the actual temperature and the dew point temperature. And the laws of physics state that as long as there's enough difference between the actual temperature and the dew point, you'll never get condensation. So in an environment where you're trying to protect against that, the specific application that's using this currently that comes to mind is a historic lighthouse that the brickwork on the inside, because of the changing outside temperatures, was seeing condensation. It was damaging the historic brick. a 150-year-old lighthouse right on the coast. But by monitoring the difference between the temperature and the dew point, and then moving enough airflow so that you're always keeping enough barrier there, you'll never see condensation because you're maintaining enough difference. And being able to calculate that difference and represent it as a virtual sensor that can be graphed or can be triggered based on alerts, that's unique to our RoomAlert platform as well.
I would imagine all kinds of application in the food space, vegetables, those types of things, environments.
Absolutely. The difference between two different areas gives you insight into, again, from a preventative maintenance standpoint. Let's say you're in a market and you've got an open air cooler. What's the difference between the air outside that cooler and just on the inside of it? And is it cooling effectively, or is your food at risk from a safety standpoint,
Right.
pharmaceuticals and so on?
Right. And the way you described the Monitor 360, even if you don't know that information today, for example, if you don't know what your differences in temperature should be between intake and outtake and output, you can establish then using this product, you can establish what normal is, get your baseline, and then establish your alerts from there.
Absolutely, and it works. It works great for that. And then some of the other things that you can do with Monitor 360 are calculate maximums, minimums, and averages really easily, and they're represented as a virtual sensor. So, for example, if you've got 100 sensors deployed across the country, you could create a Monitor 360 sensor that shows the maximum of whichever ones you select. And anytime you look at that sensor, it's going to tell you what the highest temperature is and which sensor it's attached to. So if you're operating multiple facilities and you're looking for, maximums or minimums, or even if you're, let's say you're operating a series of 4 or 5 warehouses and you just want to see averages across all of them and what you're running for average temperature, average humidity, you can do that just by creating an average sensor in Monitor 360. So really interesting
Um,
applications there.
I'm going to ask this question and you're probably going to cover it, but if I don't ask it, I'll forget it. So let's say you have these multiple sensors around facilities around the country, blah, blah, blah. Do you have the ability, does your software, does your tool have the ability to pull that together in a common dashboard?
Oh, absolutely. Yep. You can create your own common dashboard. You can create custom reports where you can plot the values from all of these sensors on a common graph. And then we also allow you to create custom overlays on that graph. So let's say that you've determined that your environment range that's appropriate for that area is between 65 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit. You can create a overlay at that range. It will plot that on the map, on the graph for you, and then you'll be able to see where all of your trends over the last hour, day, week, month, or year have plotted against that overlay. So you can look at just visually, you can see points in time where you may have been above or below your accepted level.
That's crazy stuff, man. Okay, I'm gonna go another step of wonkiness on this deal. Can you take that? Do you have the ability, and I'm going to call it an API, but do you allow developers access to that information somehow? So let's say, for example, I have customers and there's a reason for them to want to see some of that information. Can I pull that information out of the dashboard and use it in a
Yes, you
web
can.
app?
Yeah. So we, in terms of a published and documented API, that's still on our roadmap. But in terms of the actual data, you can export that as an Excel file, or you can create a PDF report if you just want to show management data. But the Excel file and then being able to manipulate it however you like from there is certainly possible in today's product. And then we also have, our RoomAlert account is really what most of our customers use just because of the convenience. You don't have to install anything. You just, plug our products in and they'll immediately start pushing data up and you can create your graphs and alerts and reports. There's really nothing easier out there. But for customers, especially banking, finance, military, they may have restrictions on what can go off network. We do have an on-premise software called RoomAlert Manager that customers can download and run locally. It typically ties in with a MySQL database or a local relational database and will log all the data there. Well, if you're doing that, now you've got full access to all the raw database files. You can run your own queries and you can do whatever you like.
So if I'm in a food vertical and I need to provide some kind of attestation around temperature controls over a period of time, I can log that information, take it off net to a database, and then now my limitation is however much I want to store.
Absolutely. Yep, you're limited only by disk space at that point, but you're meeting the needs of logging all of that data to an unmodifiable source. And if it's for an FDA requirement or for some other regulatory requirement, there's a wide usage across food and pharmaceutical use, specifically to meet FDA requirements for logging, and that's a very popular use for RoomAlert.
All right, that's awesome. I have a couple of ideas. I'll probably have to ping you on later, but
Sounds good. Well, and
neat
there's,
stuff.
going back to the active power sensor, I'll share because it may be something you mentioned, vacation homes and cabins. Where my home is, it's a rural community where I have a well and I have a high water table, so I have a sump pump. And historically, there's no way to know when either of those is running, not easily. So what I've done is I've actually strapped an active power sensor, one of Avtech's active power sensors, to the power feed that goes to my well. The well pump is 300 feet down in the ground, but because the active power sensor can detect power draw, I can look at a graph in RoomAlert account and I can see every single time, every single day, my well pump comes on and for how long it runs. So I can tell if it's short cycling. I can tell if I've got maybe a leaky valve in the house so that the well is coming on when nobody's home. You would never have
That's
that
my
visibility.
new business. That's going to be my retirement plan. I'm going to monitor sump pumps, and
Yeah,
I'll just stare at monitors and I'll call people if their sump pump goes off.
it's hugely insightful. So I
Oh
use
yeah, no.
that on a personal level. And then the same thing with the sump pump. A sump pump typically just plugs into a power outlet. And how do you know when it kicks on unless you hear
How
it?
do you know it's right?
Yep. So I just strap an active power sensor to the power cord on my sump pump. And the same thing, I can graph that over time and see how often it's running, for how long it's running. I can trigger alerts based on that so that, in the summer it's dry. The first time my sump pump comes on this fall, I'll get an alert right on my phone saying the sump pump's running. So it's a reassuring to know, because sometimes maybe the float valve locks up and the water comes higher than it should. Now you've got a problem in the basement. So yeah, commercial, residential, vacation homes, there's the conditions that we're monitoring are so universally impactful to everybody that there's lots of creative ways they can be used.
You've given me like three separate business ideas just in this conversation. The guys at Heavy Pro better be careful because it's my retirement plan now.
That's great. Well, and this screen here really just highlights some of those different ways that you can view the data. So again, I said we had some pictures of the different monitors. These are the different hardware monitors. So the RoomAlert 32S here that you see in the top left, this is our largest monitor. It is designed to fit in a 1U rack. So that'll give you some scale for the height. It's about that 1.75 inches high for a 1U. It does include mounting brackets, so it'll mount perfectly in a rack. But those mounting brackets can rotate, so you can easily mount it to a wall or a ceiling or any other kind of equipment. And then you can see up above that to the left, a RoomAlert 12S, a little bit smaller, and the 3S above that, which is again one smaller. Functionality wise, they are all identical to each other. They can all be powered by PoE. They all support HTTPS. They all can send their own email alerts. They all can be communicated with over SNMP.
Did you say
They're all
they can all be powered by PoE?
absolutely, yeah. So you think
Oh,
about something small like our RoomAlert 3S. It's really, it's half the size of your cell phone, and it can be powered up by PoE. And it's got a built-in temperature sensor, and then you can connect an external digital sensor, so it could be temp, humidity, or active power. And then also a switch sensor, which could be a flood sensor, a smoke sensor, a motion sensor. And you don't need a power outlet for any of that. You just
that's
run an
crazy.
Ethernet cable and power it up by PoE.
Yeah, that's awesome. So if you're an organization, maybe you're not a big organization, but let's say you have multiple sites, and in those sites you have like many small to medium sized businesses, you have a technology closet, and that closet has everything from, pipes and mop buckets to chemicals and the phone system and the music for the phone and all that in one place. You could power and you're power constrained.
That's
Well,
exactly right.
now you can
Yep.
PoE with that and you can monitor that space. That's pretty powerful. That's a
Well,
compelling argument for
and
this product.
think about this too, is that often you wouldn't have a UPS in that closet. You likely don't, if it's a mop closet, but your switching gear is likely on a UPS. So if that building had a power outage, you're much more likely to have RoomAlert still be powered on over a PoE link than you would be if it was just plugged into an outlet in a random closet somewhere in that building. And you can also do both. So a lot of our customers, they will plug it into PoE, but they'll also have it plugged into main power. And our device will intelligently switch between the two based on which one's available. So it'll use main power, but then if you lose main power without dropping off, it'll intelligently switch over to PoE or vice versa. And then our 32S that you're seeing here actually has its own built-in mini UPS is what we call it, but it's our own technology that we've built in that is constantly trickle charging. And if main power is lost to the RoomAlert 32S, it can run on its own for 15 to 20 minutes, certainly well long enough to generate alerts and send notifications of that power outage. But in terms of
That's awesome.
yeah, so in terms of the hardware, again, they're all the same. It's just your capacity is really the differentiator between those. Above those hardware monitors, you can see a bit of our RoomAlert account dashboard. You can see how it's available both on a browser, a larger format, and then we've also got a mobile app available, which is becoming incredibly popular. A lot of customers are actually using the mobile app alone, just as a standalone interface, just because everybody always has their phone with them in their pocket. And you can see some of the screens over on the right that indicate why. When it comes time to do an installation, now with the mobile app, you can take the device to where you're installing it, turn it over, and with the mobile app, scan the serial number, and it will automatically register that into your account and add that in. And pretty soon, we're actually going to be able to track the location. You can manually set the location already, but we're going to make that possible through the app so that you just scan the serial number and it will add it to the app and register the location so you can immediately map that across your building or across multiple sites within the dashboard. You can see that a little bit here on the left where we've got multiple icons for multiple devices that are showing up in different parts of, in this case, Massachusetts and Rhode Island and Cape Cod.
All right, and I'm going to ask you a question. I don't mean to interrupt you, but this is something that I wanted to talk about a little bit. I wanted to have you talk about a little bit. Can you talk about kind of the alerting? I mean, so obviously there's the email you can send. Is there the ability to text, or can you talk about the alerting capabilities a little bit?
Absolutely. And the mobile app plays a big role in that as well. So historically, most of our alerts have been triggered around email. That still remains a primary notification method for a lot of customers. They'll set up a series of email alerts that'll be scheduled to different people at different times for different events. You can set up quiet times and schedules so that if you're running shifts, it's a really robust capability that you can build in. You can even customize the message and put custom keywords in there that show real-time data based on when the alert was triggered. But as people have moved more and more away from the desktop and into the phone in their pocket, we've continued to enhance the ways in which they can be notified. So native SMS is something that we launched earlier this year. Prior to that, we supported email to SMS, but a lot of the telecom carriers started phasing that out. And the ones that still supported that, they wouldn't guarantee a delivery time. And the last thing you want is an alert for something critical that takes 10 minutes to get there. So email to SMS was on its way out. So we invested quite a bit of engineering effort into native SMS. So now you can go into RoomAlert account. You can purchase some credits. Basically, an SMS is about a penny a piece, but it does go native through your carrier, which is why there's a little bit of cost associated with it. But it's immediate delivery, and it's native, built right into RoomAlert account. All you need is a mobile phone number, and we can deliver that as SMS. But the fastest growing, and I think the most attractive way to do alerting going forward is now with our mobile app. So about mid-year is when we launched that capability. And you can see in this top right screenshot, that is actually through our mobile app. And what we've done, there's a couple of things that become a challenge. If you get an email, or even if you get an SMS message, and it says at 3 a.m. that the air conditioning has failed or the power's out, what do? Well, the first thing you got to do is figure out, are you going to deal with it? Is there somebody already at the building? Maybe there's somebody closer. So now you're going through your contact list. You're trying to remember Jimmy's phone number or Johnny's email address, and it's 3 a.m. and somebody's not answering. So getting the alert is the first part of the challenge, but then actually being able to respond appropriately to it is the second. So what we did with our mobile app is we baked in a native notification and communication engine right into the mobile app, and it's intelligent. It will know which users in your organization are attached to that alert. And when you start, you can see here with this little chat message back and forth, when you start communicating there, only the users that are tied to that alert are going to get the notifications, but it's in real time. You'll be able to communicate and coordinate the response right through there. You won't have to worry about, what's their phone number, or are they responding to email, or where they're at. And soon you'll actually be able to interface with RoomAlert itself through there as a native kind of AI chat engine, so that you can ask questions about the alert and other conditions that are going on to better inform your response. So the more people move towards the mobile app as their primary interface, the more we really see that native notification and communication built right into the app as the primary method in which organizations will respond to alerts.
Wow, that's cool stuff, man. Another question I'd like to throw out there before we leave is, do you do native integrations to power things? Like, for example, if maybe you have a generator and you don't have gen tracker or something on it, if that generator kicks off, can you generate an alert other than with the power management that we talked about? But is there a native thing that if that generator kicks off, we could be notified about it?
Yeah, any of our room alert monitors supports connecting a switch sensor or dry contact to it. So if you've got another piece of equipment that opens or closes a contact, your generator, for example, if when it's running, it closes a relay or opens a relay, we can detect that, and then you can run that alerting through room alert.
So
But you
you
can
could
also
connect it to an automatic transfer switch.
you could do that, yep, and you could also log that over time. So now that you're detecting when it's coming on and off, we can log that, and you can plot over time how often it's run, for how long it's run, and combine that with your other alerting. And the other thing you can do is go the other direction as well. So our Room Alert 12S and our Room Alert 32S both support native relay outputs. So you can configure Room Alert so that when an alert is triggered by Room Alert or detected by Room Alert, it can open or close a relay output, and then you could tie that relay output to another piece of equipment. So one of the uses that we have is in our data center, we use that to turn on a backup air conditioner. We have a little AC power switch, and it turns on or off based on a relay control. And we have Room Alert connected to that. So when Room Alert detects the temperature in the room getting too high, we can turn on an auxiliary air conditioner from within Room Alert. So you can go
Or
both directions.
fans,
Yep.
fans, those types of things. I
Yeah,
would
fans,
imagine.
pumps, all kinds of things. The other
Wow.
application would be lights and alarms, or audible alarms. We certainly support our own native light towers, where you can have red, yellow, green with some audio alert. But other customers have like a control center dashboard or a security station that they may want to toggle a light on, and you can do that with our relay outputs as well.
Wow. Crazy stuff, man. Before we get too far, I want to see, does anybody have any questions? I don't want to miss any questions. Does anybody who's listening have any questions for Rick? All right. Hearing none, we'll continue going. I just wanted to make sure nobody was I was monopolizing your time, Rick. So
No,
keep
that's
going.
to
I
that's totally fine.
apologize.
And I'm just wrapping up here anyway,
Right.
just in terms of reinforcing that with everything that we've just talked about in terms of sensors and abilities and different applications for it. I wanted to bring it back to the four key markets where we find the most opportunity. IT and data center is where we grew up. Our original software was VAX and VMS mainframes. So we've lived and breathed IT and data center for 35 years. And there's still a huge opportunity there for monitoring all the equipment and protecting against extremes. Safety and compliance has been probably our fastest growing area. I mentioned earlier about the OSHA National Emphasis Program around heat-related illness. And we're seeing huge growth in warehouse and manufacturing facilities that are now being mandated by OSHA to be monitoring for heat-related illness conditions and providing mitigation for the workers if there's conditions that could be dangerous to their health. So OSHA will be doing inspections. They will be looking for logs. They will be looking to see how companies are monitoring for those conditions. And with Room Alert, we've got compliance tools built right in. We launched an entire compliance engine within Room Alert account. So you can go there, I mentioned the overlays on the reports. We've got the National Weather Service heat levels for warning, high, and critical built right into our graphs, so you can see if you're within compliance just with a glance. So there's no easier way to be in compliance with the new OSHA rules, and RoomAlert's a big part of that. General facilities monitoring is always going to be there. That's the facilities manager who's worried about water in the crawl space or general building status. But the other area that we've just seen massive growth over the years in is when you consider urban environments. The building owner, especially newer buildings, the building owner has visibility into fancy BMS systems and intelligent, building monitoring, but the tenants don't. And so you may have a building with 100 tenants or 1,000 tenants, and each of those are blind to whether the building has power, whether the sprinklers are going off, what the temperature is. Maybe it's even got centralized thermostat control, so they really can't control that at all. But by putting RoomAlert into that environment, now the tenants within these larger buildings get some of the same value that the building owner themselves do with having a very elegant BMS system. With RoomAlert, you get a lot of that same benefit, but with much greater granularity, much greater control over alerting and notifications. And so that's where we see a lot of customers coming to us for facilities monitoring. And then the last was sustainability. It's when they put goals in place in the boardroom for energy conservation and green initiatives and energy, usage and cooling efficiency. The goals are one thing, measuring whether or not you're attaining those goals is another. And a lot of companies are coming to RoomAlert to provide the measuring and monitoring in order to meet those sustainability goals. So those are the four key areas that we find ourselves doing most of our daily activity in.
Well, it's crazy stuff. You have some great tools here. Very interesting. If somebody has interest in learning more, what's the best way to do it? Do they, obviously if they get a hold of me, I'm happy to make a connection and we can do that. Is there a direct channel, or is it best for them just to get a hold of me and we can get them somebody to talk to?
Yeah, certainly anybody on this call and anybody you're connected to is welcome to go through you and your team, and we're happy to work with you to get them the solution they need. Regardless of that, or whether they would come to us direct, we have our own in-house team of senior product specialists, and they're not typical sales. It's more of a solutions-oriented approach to it, to understand the needs and select from some of these different sensors that we talked about. I see Norman had asked a question about the active power sensor being the product that we're talking about for sump pump. Yes, that's correct. So it's our digital active power sensor is what I'm personally actually using on my own sump pump. But because of the different variations of all of these different sensors and technologies, our senior product specialists can help the customer directly, but also solution providers like yourself to help really craft a solution that's best for their particular environment or needs.
I mean, just in my own, I'm thinking about the customers I work with every day. I have 3 off the top of my head that I want to talk to solutions with this. I have one who needs power monitoring at remote sites. They're the 6th largest construction company in the United States. They have remote sites that they need to understand what's going on with power and temperature controls and those things. I'm going to talk to them about this. So yeah, there's some cool stuff.
Right. And our website's a wealth of information. We've got demos, we've got videos. We've been really investing quite a bit in our YouTube channel and the video content there. It's got demonstrations and walkthroughs. So that's also a good resource to go through.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's crazy stuff. I'm gonna say we're kind of getting towards the end of the time. And Piper, do we have
We have a message from John in the chat if we want to answer that one quick first.
Okay, yeah, you have a freezer full of beef and would like to monitor temperature inside. Is it possible? Yeah, absolutely. Common application. We actually have a market right next door to us, and they're using it to monitor their freezers and coolers in case of power loss. So there's a couple of ways you can do it. We have what we call our outdoor temperature sensor. It's basically a temperature sensor sealed in silicone. And then that way, if there's frost or condensation, it's not going to damage the temperature sensing element. The cord is thin enough that typically you just run it right inside, right where the gasket is, and you can just have it inside the freezer and it's going to monitor that. If you need to go to an extreme level, we have some pharmaceutical applications where it goes down to -80 Celsius. We have an extreme temp sensor that can do that just as easily, the exact same way.
Can we measure the temperature inside the cow before it's butchered?
I'll leave that to you. There's creative ways you could probably do that. The other way we can do it is with a digital fluid temperature sensor. That's typically best in, it's possible in freezers, but also coolers. That a lot of food and pharmaceutical applications use that because it better represents the temperature of the material that's being stored in that environment. So if you think about a cooler or a freezer, if somebody's opening the door off and you're going to get a blast of warm air, it might trigger a normal sensor. But our fluid temperature sensor is a temp sensor suspended in propylene glycol, which has a lower freezing period, and it maintains the temperature. So you don't get those false alarms from door opens. But if there was an issue where the temperature in that freezer was starting to rise over time, it's going to more closely represent, in this case, the beef, or it could be a medication or a fluid. So that's often what's used in like a food monitoring application would be a digital fluid temperature sensor.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff. Let me ask one more question before we go to the drawing. Do you have mobile solutions? So if someone maybe has trucks, delivery trucks, and they're doing that, is there any kind of a mobile solution for this?
Yeah, that's a great question. We do have some, but it's typically in trucks or equipment that have their existing connectivity in place. So we actually, there's some, one of our customers is a mobile mammography bus. So they go around and do mammograms, and there's really sensitive equipment in there. They're using RoomAlert within that bus, but it's a bus that has existing connectivity. So our
Okay.
RoomAlert is basically thinks it's just on a network and it's communicating out.
So that would be similar to like I was talking about with the construction company, because they use job trailers that are power attached. That portable application would be in a job trailer, similar because it already has its infrastructure there, like a bus would.
Exactly. It's plug and
Yeah.
play in those applications. For others, a simple cellular gateway, those are pretty common and ubiquitous at this point, where it's a little cellular connection to the internet with an Ethernet port. And we can connect that way. And we do have some similar capabilities that would be baked into our products on the roadmap that we're going to be excited to talk about in the
Super interesting
not too
stuff.
distant future.
Very good. Piper, before we run out of time, are we drawing for a $10 Amazon gift card?
We are. Let me
All right.
share my screen. Can you all see my screen?
We can.
All right. Without further ado. Well, who could have guessed?
Oh, a shocker. Raj. Raj.
Congratulations, Raj.
Very good. Very good. Well, it's great to talk to you. We could do 3 shows on this. I mean, this has been great information. Again, I avail myself to anybody who has questions or has a need. And Rick, thank you so much for your time today.
Of course, yeah, we appreciate the opportunity, and we're happy to talk to you again, do a show again, or talk to any of your customers at any time. Certainly, there's
Awesome.
opportunities for RoomAlert in lots of applications, like we talked about.
Yep. Very good. Well, thank you to everybody, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. Thank you again, Rick.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah, take care. Bye-bye.